to the advanced weekly update. It's not Monday, and it feels weird to do this on a Tuesday. How are you guys holding up after the holiday weekend? Brandon, did you do anything fun for Labor Day?
I met up with some friends for lunch. My wife and my son and I went out for lunch, and then we went out to the park. It was a gorgeous day yesterday here in Taipei.
It was.
So that was wonderful. How about you?
We went, well, we rested a lot and had dinner with family, but it was a beautiful windy and cloudy day, but still warm, so the kids and I went to the park. I'd love to hear what you think. For the last, for a few weeks, we've had baby Hope here, and her English is amazing. You know, she's 11 months old, so we don't have her here today. She's taking a nap. But if you want to see more of baby Hope, please comment below. If you want to see less of baby Hope or never want to see baby Hope again, please also comment below.
Don't say anything.
We just want your honesty. We have a phrase in English, honesty is key. What does it mean if something is key?
Well, it means it's the most important thing. And we also have the phrase, honesty is the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy. If something is a policy, it means that it is the way something is done or the rule. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but the word P-O-L-I-S was from Latin, and that means city. So we get the word policy, like the rules of a city, or even police, the people who take care of the safety of the city, from that Latin word polis. Indianapolis, Minneapolis, you'll see a lot of English names from that P-O-L-I-S root word. Now you learn something new. But hopefully that doesn't stress you out too much, right? We're talking about stress today.
We can all relate to stress, right? Hopefully you didn't have a lot of stress over the weekend, but maybe back at work today you're feeling a little stressed. After a long weekend, sometimes it's hard to get restarted.
Yeah, and stress is something we all have in our lives. We have different concerns and worries. The question is, what do we do with it and how do we think about it, right? We can't always change what's coming at us, but we can help manage our response. So first, let's start with our question, our discussion question. We'd love to get your English practice in. So the question is, how do you cope with stress? What does that word cope mean? It could mean deal with, right?
That's what comes to mind, is how do you deal with the issue. And I like what you said earlier, John. You said all of us are going to face stressful events and things in our lives, but our response is what's really important. I think that's really, it's easy to say that, but it's hard to do because sometimes we compare ourselves to other people and we think, well, why do I have to face this issue? And we think other people don't have to, but actually we don't know what that person is facing, and they have their own stressors, right? And so it really is important how we respond to the situation, and that relates to how we cope with it.
So true. We can cope with different things. You could cope with the weather. It's how you deal with it. You could cope with having kids or pets. Cope sort of implies that the thing you're dealing with is bad or difficult. So how are you coping with your sickness or something like that? Or how are you coping with your move coming up? We could say. But let's go right to our poll question. This is what we want to talk about today. How do we describe our stress in English? Here's your poll for today. What word best describes your, dear listeners, your stress? Do you feel suffering? Do you feel anxiety? Do you feel fatigue, or do you feel frustration? Okay, that last one, frustration, means that if you are frustrated, you're feeling like something is unfair, or like you don't like a situation or sometimes people. So frustrated is kind of like an angry response to your stress. What are those other words? Fatigue. How would you describe that?
Extreme tiredness, right? If you're stressed out all day long, that zaps your energy, that drains your energy, right? And that, of course, makes you feel really tired.
Yep. And that can add to stress. I don't have the energy to deal with this. It looks like anxiety is winning on our poll right now. Anxious comes from this word. Anxiety means a worry, kind of a fear, like, oh no, if I don't get this done, something else is going to happen, and then your brain kind of keeps setting off the alarms, right? I feel like I am often anxious. I don't know about you. It seems like some of you are as well. And finally, suffering at the top of the poll. Suffering means pain, right?
Yes.
Like,
right. It could be like internal pain, like a mental, like psychological pain. It can, of course, you could have physical suffering. That's a big word we don't often want to apply to our lives. But for me, I don't know about you, John, I think I could apply all of these in a sense when it comes to stress. Because like when you have stress, I'm also anxious, which can make me frustrated and then cause fatigue, and all of that is suffering. Right?
That's right.
So they're all kind of linked together.
Yeah, suffering can be physical or mental, right? If I'm sick, I'm just suffering, and then that makes me anxious and fatigued. Yes. You know, or I could just be mentally suffering, and maybe I'm dealing with depression or, you know, low energy, and so I'm physically suffering. My brain hurts. Maybe I've been studying for a test and I'm suffering. Well, we want to hear how you describe your stress. So now for our discussion question, how do you cope with stress? Let's say, Brandon, you've got work stress. Okay, work stress is coming at you. Do you have strategies for dealing with work-related stress?
Yes, I go to the refrigerator and eat whatever's in there. That is something that we often do, and I do that sometimes, but that's not healthy. I think exercise is important. I think stopping what you're doing and going out for a walk, if you have the ability to do that, is important, right? Get your mind out of what you're doing. And one of the biggest things for me, I think, is talking to a trusted friend, right?
Yeah.
Especially one who is wise and maybe can give you some counsel.
Yeah.
Not every friend maybe fits that definition, but I think that is really helpful to kind of get outside of your own mind, and maybe they're just a sounding board, which means they're just listening to you, and sometimes that's all you need. But even further, maybe they can give advice to you, and that is definitely helpful.
Yeah, so true. It's nice to have somebody else give you feedback. F-E-E-D-B-A-C-K. Feedback just means a response. We can sometimes use that when we're talking about electronics. If you have two microphones and there's electronic feedback, that's a more technical usage of that word. But getting feedback from people is important.
We just got some feedback from Tony, who's watching us right now, and he says it's an excellent program.
Tony,
thank you, Tony. Thank you for the encouragement, and thanks for watching.
You are an excellent audience member and an excellent student.
All right, so how are you coping with stress? I shared a little bit about some ways to cope. How do you cope with stress, John?
Okay, it kind of depends what the stressor is. You know, there are certain stressors, or the things that stress us, that we've just dealt with a million times, right? So let's say I wake up in the morning and I'm tired. Well, I've dealt with that stress my whole life. So you just take it in stride. That means you just kind of walk with it and you know it's going to go away. Things that are new, maybe situations at work or in relationships where you're not really sure how it's going to end, are a little bit different. Talking to people is very key. I'm a Christian, you are too, so I do try to pray and get a bigger perspective. Okay, here's my little life. What does God think about my life and other people? And ask God for His wisdom to give me that.
That is so true, John. Actually, I've experienced that sometimes just a few moments, and like what I would describe as the presence of Jesus, it really kind of can melt your anxiety away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if any of you are religious or have another religion. We'd be interested in how you process that through your religion. Tony, you mentioned Tai Chi, and that can also be very useful, making sure that you try to keep your body in balance. You know, you talked about working out.
Yeah, do some push-ups, right? Sometimes I've been doing that more recently at home. You just take a few minutes. It doesn't take long.
Yeah. Sometimes when we aren't active enough, our bodies are just carrying anxiety there. So stretching actually is super helpful. Stretching releases hormones and endorphins, or chemicals that help you feel a lot better. Yeah, even just a little stretching can help relieve your physical stress. But sometimes you can't change the situation. Yeah. There's also something you said earlier. I think you mentioned this earlier. One big stressor is the relationship we have with other people. I don't know about you, but I'm often stressed because I'm worried that someone else has an expectation of me, or there's a lot of pressure from society. I don't know if you've ever felt that.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. Like that guanxi, is it good between you and another person, right? That relationship feels off. Maybe it's with a coworker or maybe a family member or a friend. That can concern you a lot and weigh you down. And I think we have to talk through that with people instead of avoiding the situation.
Yeah, I found that the best way to do that is, so the Bible says, put other people before yourself. You know, in your heart, make sure that you esteem, E-S-T-E-E-M. Esteem means hold people up and honor them genuinely, internally, not just externally. So esteem other people. So if I'm stressed because I feel like I haven't done a good job at work, let's say I'm late on a project. It happens. And then when you put other people first in your heart, it kind of takes off some of the, oh, poor me, I need to hide or run away. Because sometimes we run away from our problems and end up more stressed. So by loving people, it's easier to face relational problems. Well, friends, that's all the time we have for today. I really wish we could talk more about this. Read the article from today. It's about granulating your stress.
Excellent
what does that
article.
word mean? You'll have to find out in advanced article.
And 71% say anxiety is the way you would describe your stress. That makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. Well, friends, we pray for you. We hope that some of that anxiety goes away. Make sure that you take a deep breath. We'll see you next Monday.
See you guys. So much better.
Yeah, so much oxygen.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, sir, for going over there.